Hey guys, Hades 2 just released in early access and I've been playing the heck out of it. The game was on my most anticipated list for the year, so I've been eagerly awaiting its release. Now that the game is dropped, I've been having a ton of fun playing through it. So today, let's chat a little bit about my first impressions of Hades 2. By the way, there's no late game spoilers here. I've played about 7 hours, beaten the first 2 bosses, and gone through the cutscenes leading up to them. If that's too much for you, I'll only be showing visuals and talking about mechanics from the very first section of the game, not including the boss, until I give my spoiler warning. Alright, 2 things you should know about me going in, so you'll know where I'm coming from. The first is that I'm not the biggest fan of roguelikes and roguelites. I absolutely appreciate the style of game, and it's not a genre I particularly dislike, but I would never go searching for roguelikes to play unless they had some other hook. Dead Cells is a great example. It's a roguelike with a few Metroidvania-esque gameplay elements and a unique perspective. I love Dead Cells. The second thing is that, well, I've never completed a run of the original Hades. I love playing the game, but I've just not had time to grind it out. I know that without even completing a single run, I've really only scratched the surface of playing it. But with the sequel out now, I've been getting excited about the Hades formula again. So once I've completed Hades 2, I'll definitely go back into the original. Cool, with that out of the way, let's talk about the game before us. Hades 2 just looks freaking amazing. I know it uses the same art style and many of the same specific art and graphics from the original, and I don't know that I'd even feel comfortable saying that Hades 2 looks better, but that hardly matters when the original looks as good as it does. It didn't need any improvement in that area, but the style of the game is so much fun. Visuals and art for sure, but also the sound design, the score, all of it combines to immerse you into Melinoe's world and the extremely satisfying roguelike loop. Especially when I'm trying to blitz through a game, I'll often have something playing in the background, other video essays or audiobooks typically, but with Hades 2, I've never been tempted to turn off the game audio. As for the actual gameplay, it feels fantastic. The original game had such a great feel to it, and this sequel recaptures all of that while also adding in some new twists. Melinoe, let's shorten it to Mel for the rest of the video, feels noticeably lighter on her feet than Zagreus did. She darts around the levels of the game faster, she attacks at a more rapid pace, and just overall feels zippier. Zagreus never felt slow to me until I started Hades 2, but going back to the original, the difference is stark. This is in no small part because Mel has, as a base part of her moveset, the ability to sprint. If you hold down the button you use to dash, Mel will start sprinting around. This sprint feels a lot faster than her running regularly and double the speed of Zagreus. It's pretty remarkable and feels so good. It does wonders for the general feel of the game. As for the rest of Mel's moveset, she's got the same options for attacking, special, and dashing. She does have a base cast, but it's very different from Zagreus's. Mel's cast basically acts as an area of effects trap. In a surprisingly large circle around her, all enemies will be trapped for about 5 seconds. They're stuck in place. They can still turn and attack, but they can't move until the trap is done. At the end of the trap's effect, it deals a pulse of damage to all trapped foes. Once it's expired, Mel can recast right away. There's no charge. This is, in my opinion, infinitely better than the cast from Hades. Zagreus had this limited ranged attack, and then he'd have to go pick up the bloodstone that spawned from it in order to use the attack again. If he, hit an enemy with it, he'd have to kill the enemy before he could reuse it. I hated the cast in Hades and almost never use it. I know it can be modified, but the base version was so bad that I never bothered to. So the new cast is really neat, but the biggest change to Mel's moveset is in the bottom left corner here. This is Magic Mel's Mucho Magnificent Mana Meter, but we'll just call it Magic Meter. All of the other moves from Hades that I haven't mentioned yet now use magic. Your charged attack, your charged cast, and your charged special all now use magic. I was torn on this at first, since it did feel somewhat limiting to have your charged attack and special limited, but I realized that this was a refinement of the Bloodstone system. It's limiting, but instead of being restricted to one use, you have a bar that you can deplete and recharge. It always recharges to full whenever you enter a new room, and tons of the boons and other effects go to regenerate it in battle, so I ended up liking it a lot. Interestingly, your cast does not use magic. It's free. The only limitation is that you're limited to one active cast. As I said, the cast is powerful, and there's so many upgrades that you can get to make it feel even more powerful that it really does feel like it's teetering on the edge of being actually broken. It doesn't look broken because you're watching my gameplay and I'm not that good at this game, but it just feels so powerful. And speaking of, Mel herself feels way more powerful than Zagreus ever did. Between the better cast, faster movement speed, and what feels to me like weaker enemies in the starting region of Erebus, Mel feels like a god. I won't lie, playing with this much power feels really satisfying, like you're bulldozing your way through the underworld. Many of the specific boons and status effects were retooled coming into the sequel, and most feel more powerful than before. Demeter in particular had her boon changed from chill to freeze, which is way stronger. I would say that you feel too powerful, but the bosses don't feel any weaker in this game than they did in Hades. The first bosses of each game in particular are very reminiscent of each other in both style and difficulty. Okay, this is your story/mechanics spoiler warning. If you don't want to know anything about the bosses and story of this game, or some of the new mechanics that I haven't talked about yet, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons on your way out of the video. I'll give you a second to head out. Alright, fantastic. So I've made it through 2 bosses, Hecate, your mentor and teacher turned challenger, and Scylla's band. I liked Hecate much better since the complicated relationship between her and Mel has this awesome arena to play out in. Plus, Hecate's attacks seem to be designed to keep training Mel, and, by extension, the player, in Mel's moveset and limitations. Beating her is so satisfying. Scylla, meanwhile, was only okay. She's the leader of this musical siren group and stands at the end of Oceanus. The vibe of the indie pop rock band with a diva frontwoman was immaculate, but the fight felt a little slow and predictable to me. It certainly wasn't bad, just a bit underwhelming after the fight with Hecate. Now, there is one thing in the game that does feel bad though, and that's the new resource gathering and crafting system. Along with all of the combat and roguelike progression, you also have a bunch of materials to gather along the way. Some of these are just pickups that can be found in the various levels, while others require specific tools to grab. See, as a part of your loadout at the beginning of every run, you'll be equipping a specific tool. The 4 tools that you start knowing about are the pickaxe, the shovel, the fishing rod, it's a real indie game now guys, and the tablet of peace. I haven't unlocked the fishing rod yet, although I'm sure it's amazing, but the other 3 are just mutually exclusive keys that allow you to approach certain resource nodes in the various levels and extract something from them. The pickaxe, for example, can get silver and limestone out of a couple of these nodes. All of this resource collecting feels awful. Whenever you approach a resource node, you stop moving and trigger a short animation of Mel using the tool and getting whatever it is inside. This grinds your momentum to a halt if you do it in combat, and to top it all off, you're still vulnerable when this happens. But that's moot anyway, since there's no point gathering the resources during combat. Instead, you can just kill all the enemies and scout the room for any resource nodes that match your equipped tool. It takes a mechanic that was an irritating risk-reward system and makes it just irritating. Why does this tool have to be something you use? Why couldn't the resources just be a part of each room's reward structure like the boons or upgrades already? That would feel way better. Although, having said that, the crafting system as a whole is pretty bland. In the hub area, you have this cauldron that you can use to craft incantations. These are permanent upgrades to your runs or beneficial passive effects that can really alter the game. This incantation system is in addition to the other upgrade system, the Arcana cards. These also take resources to unlock and activate, and are also upgrades to your runs or passive effects, but you can toggle these ones on and off. The Arcana card system is great, so I don't really understand the point of having a separate incantation system. Or, if it was just really important to have certain upgrades be permanent, why they had to be the result of this kind of half-baked crafting system. It feels very awkward, like it was haphazardly fashioned onto the side of an amazing game. Because let's face it, Hades 2 is incredible. It runs fantastic for a day 1 early access game. It looks and feels great, and I'm trying to get this video done as fast as possible so I can get back to playing it. But this resource crafting system is awkward, clunky, and overall seems out of place. It's an ugly blemish on what's otherwise a fantastic game. Okay, I think I'll call it there. If you liked Hades or somehow missed it but enjoy hack and slash combat, play this game. You owe it to yourself. I'm having a blast, and I know you will too. I'll link the Steam page just below the subscribe button so you'll be able to click both in short order. But that's all I've got for you today, so enjoy your day and take care.